too. Look, no pressure. I don't care.
So
We're not even going right now because we chop all this stuff.
Well, yeah. So I guess maybe it's my Hispanic in me. I was like Rugloski.
Yeah.
Wanting to like roll something.
You just can't read.
Maybe that's too. Okay.
Oh.
All right. Well, Kris Rugloski, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This is probably the most exciting person, I think. Well, don't tell Kenny that. Don't tell Kenny that. But this is
We'll
probably
have to cut that out.
Yeah. I'm very excited to have you on and talk to you about all your ventures and everything that you're doing. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Well, you're just a freak of nature athlete. Were you always this good of an athlete growing up? Did you play sports?
So no, not at all. I grew up in a really conservative family, and we were all homeschooled, spent a lot of time at home, weren't involved in any kind of, organized sports, really active and definitely like spent a lot of time outside, a lot of time like moving, but no involvement in any kind of sports at all. It wasn't until I guess we ran my only experience with any kind of anything was 5Ks that my dad would sign us up for. He'd get a couple free entries at first it was just one a year, then ended up being 2 a year. And we'd, the week before, like, hey kids, like y'all got to train for this 5K. And we'd all go out and run 3 miles. And then we're like, okay, we're good. And we go and run this 5K. And that was kind of it. And I always did decent in those. Like my parents always said like, oh, you got, you can run, you've got the long legs and all that. But like, we never did anything with it.
So you just weren't, your parents didn't sign, it's not like you were kept from it. Cause
no.
I was telling Mike, I watched a couple of interviews and they made it seem like your parents kept you away from sports.
So they definitely try to put that spin on it. It really wasn't that. It was just that wasn't something they wanted to like invest time, money, anything of that in. We played, there were a lot of us kids, so we all played together. And we would play volleyball in our backyard. My dad played soccer, and then all of my brothers played soccer for a year or two or whatever. So we'd all play soccer with them and then with different friends. But didn't ever do anything official. I have like zero team sport experience. So I think that kind of has something to do with, or that kind of lends to where I'm at now. Cause I'm not used, I'm used to being the odd one out. Like,
okay.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm waiting for everybody else to do something. I'll just do it.
What those little kid times look like?
Huh?
What those little kid 5K times look like?
The first one, I think it was 25:03 was kind of like my first one. Because we would run, my older brothers would run them, and we'd just kind of run them with the dogs, my sisters and I. And then once we finally started signing up, 25:03 was the first one that I remember. And then I ran one with my dad for most of the time, and it was like a 24:40 something. I think I got maybe a 23:41.
Jeez.
But I would always stop and walk at least once or twice or 3 times. I was like, this is dumb. Like, I'd stop and walk for a little bit and like, okay, now I start running again. I always did fine in my age group, but like, obviously not a super competitive time, but it was just kind of go out and run. And
well, I see. Done
in 25 minutes.
I played outside too a lot. Like I lived outside when I was a kid, but I can't do the things that you do on a daily basis. I don't know how you go about. It's like a natural thing for you.
A lot's
almost
changed since then, a lot. But that just comes down to we're definitely have it in us, I guess. Like,
yeah.
I know my brother would get some fast times. He probably got a sub 20 a couple times, and he started. My 2 older brothers are like super cool, and they've always like been my inspiration. Like I just want to be like them, and now they think I'm crazy, but I'm just trying to be like them. But I know he did some faster times, and then they would run some half marathons eventually and stuff. But none of the others have really actually gone all in. And honestly, they could all be amazing athletes. They are already. So they could all be doing this, and they just decide to be smarter. So.
And you're the only girl?
No, I have 3 sisters.
Oh yeah. Okay.
You got a big family.
Yeah.
Where'd y'all grow up at?
Arizona originally is kind of where my older brothers would probably say they're from. My older sister was born in California, and then most of us were born in Arizona. It was kind of like in Arizona, California, Arizona. But we moved to Bernie, north of San Antonio, when I was 8. Yeah. So that's kind of like where I say I'm from.
Okay.
Never quite sure because I was like,
So
Arizona, Texas.
Bernie, I imagine it was like ranch living. I imagine you working on a ranch, staying outside, kind of a tomboy, maybe.
Oh yes, I wanted to be. Yeah, we had 5 acres and we had chickens and goats. We had an emu for a little while. Yeah, and just spent a lot of time outside. We were all homeschooled, so we were at home all day. There was no there's nothing. We never had to be inside for that long. And then of course it's really hot for those Texas summers, so we would get our school done as fast as we can, like get outside, get in the pool, and just spend the day outside. So,
that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty great. I had a great childhood.
Well, talk about this tree climbing you used to do as a little kid.
So we just climbed. Well, yeah, that was just us trying to like entertain ourselves. We'd climb anything and everything. We'd climb up on the roofs, and we'd like bring little siblings up on the roofs with us, and like watch the sunset or like sit around up there. We'd always have to like tiptoe because mom would hear and be like, "Y'all can't be on the roof," or we'd get on our grandma's roof and get in trouble for that. But it was just, I mean, we just always climbed trees. We had rope swings. We'd make tree forts, like all that kind of stuff. And
I guess for the folks that don't know, you're just an amazing athlete. So you do obstacle course racing.
Yes.
You've been on the Titan Games.
yes.
What other events have you done that people might know?
Ultra running. That's kind of the only thing. And that's kind of newer, but yeah.
Yeah, the
Obstacle
ultra
course
running is
racing,
newer to you.
Ultra running. And then the Titan Games it aired 2 years ago. So it was like 2.5 years ago that we did all that. So
When did this come to fruition? When did you know that, damn, like I got something here and it's just like a natural gift. Like if I try, I'm going to far exceed everybody else. When was that?
So it was really my entire introduction to like anything like officially active. Like, I mean, playing outside is one thing, but I'd heard about like Tough Mudders and Spartans, and I was like, oh, these sound cool. Like, so I made my sister sign up for Tough Mudder with me, and we did the full course. We were like, let's do 12 miles. And my 2 sisters and a friend of ours did that. And the obstacles were like really fun and not anything crazy. I mean, there's nothing we didn't already do, I guess. And then on the running, like the Tough Mudder is like not a competitive race. So it's open and most of the people are walking and I was like, this is really like, it was, I guess it was 2016 when they were like, everybody was doing them. Like they were a big deal. And I was like, I don't really get what the big deal is, but I'd heard Spartan was harder. So later that year I went and did a Spartan. It was a Spartan Beast, which is like the 13-mile distance. But I was like, I'd already done the 12-mile Tough Mudder. Why not do this one? So I went out and did that one, and it was up in Dallas. It was the year it was like really hot. There were like dead fish in the creek. Anybody that does that, like the Dallas one is always either super hot, super cold, flooded. Like anyways, that one was really hot. But it was kind of the same thing. The obstacles were slightly more challenging, but I was like, this is the most they have to give. Like it's kind of a joke, you know. But then, and of course I had like no pressure. Like I knew I could complete it. So it was kind of like let's just check this out. But I heard they have like their trifecta. So I was like, okay, the 3 different distances, let's go. So I didn't realize they had to be like within a calendar year. So this one was at the end of the year. The next year I made my sister come and do the super distance with me, which is now like a 10K distance. And with that one, we had work later in the day, I think, so we had to sign up for the Elite Wave. And
hold on, the bigger one, you were doing 12 miles, but
I did the 12, and then I came down to the second
Okay,
distance.
and that's that one's the harder one? Because that's the 12 miles longer, but you did the 6 mile is the harder one?
No, the 12 mile is supposed to be harder.
Okay.
That's the longer, the longer distance, the harder
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
But I was like, I want to do all 3 distances.
Okay, I got you.
It was just kind of, the
for fun.
trifecta, yeah. So we signed up for the super one, and we had to sign up for the Elite Wave because we had to work later in the day. So on that one, at the start line, I'd already done 2, and I was like, these are kind of like, whatever. It's fun. You get to play outside all day, but it was like, but in the Elite Wave, of course, the MC is all like, some of y'all are here for money, and like y'all are here to compete and like make a name for yourselves. And my sister and I are standing in the back of the crowd, and we're like, oh, this is kind of, whatever. Anyways, we went out, and I was like, I was ready to go. I was like, this is fun. My sister failed, I think, every single obstacle. She made her height an excuse. Anyways, so we did it mostly together, except for at the end when she was like, go do it. But I still had I was just like, this is fun. Like, just run a little ways and do an obstacle. Like, I hated running. Like, I disliked running, but I was like, these obstacles are fun. So I'll run a little ways, do the obstacles. Anyways, then I moved out east, and I did a sprint distance, and that one was where I volunteered to get it for free, and I started talking to somebody and realized like there's a competitive side to this. And I was like, that's kind of cool. There's a competitive side. People actually win money. You can go to like the championships. And I also heard about their Ultra Beast, which is the Beast twice. So it's like, it's about a marathon to a 50K, 26 to 30 miles.
Gosh.
And I heard about that and I was like, okay, well the time cutoff, it was like a 14, 16 hour time cutoff. And I was like, I could walk that distance. Like, anybody can walk that distance in that amount of time. And I was like, I could do it. Like, if you can walk it, you can do it. So I spent the rest of this was like the rest of that year. I signed up for 2 races up in Canada because I was living out east and there were races all over the place there. Cause Texas, there's a couple. Anyways, so I did 2 up in Canada and I podiumed for the first time. I got 3rd place in the Beast up there.
How old were you when you did that?
20.
So I imagine you being young for obstacle course racing,
sure.
Right?
Obstacle course racing, like it's definitely, they say like ultra running, the peak for that, the prime of that is like in your 30s. No, that's like 40s, 50s.
Yeah.
It's like when everybody gets their endurance. Obstacle course racing, I just see it as kind of like, it's kind of a top upper crust sport because it's expensive. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of money, and like not many people do it. So you find a lot of people like middle age that are looking for something fun to do. They were athletes in college or whatever, and they want to do something else. There's definitely like more younger people now, but there's not a whole lot of like college age kids. You get enough of that, but not a whole lot of college age kids that are like, oh, I want to like do this competitively, or like I want to race every weekend. Like they're just doing other stuff. So yeah, I was definitely on the younger side, a lot younger side. But yeah, I went up to Canada and at that time you would coin to go to the national championships and you'd only coin once and then like it rolls down. So throughout the year, everybody's coining and that gets you into the national championship. So I coined there because I finished 3rd place, got my first podium finish. And I was like, this is great, Then I came back to the States the next weekend I did, and I didn't even realize the Killington is like, they call it, Joe DeSena is like the owner's Spartan. They call it his backyard or his playground. And it's supposed to be like really challenging. It's on this ski slope or in the ski resort. And at one point, I don't know if it's a bucket, it's the Death March. And it's like a mile just straight up the ski slope. Like everybody talks about it's a terrible race. They have an Ultra Beast there that like everybody hates. I didn't really realize that going in. Like I signed up for it because I was like, oh, it's Vermont. It's this weekend that works. Like, let's do it. And then I realized like kind of at the last minute, like, oh, this is like the really hard one. But anyways, I finished like, I think top 10 there, 7th or something.
Wow.
And since it was at the end of the season, I coined, you're supposed to only be able to coin once, but I'd coined up in Canada and then I coined again in the States. So I like coined twice in that first year.
Oh, man.
I didn't even go to the championships. I think they're typically like at the end of September, beginning of October, but like I wasn't that far in. Anyways, came back to Texas, did that Ultra Beast, and ended up podiuming in the Ultra Beast. I was 100% unprepared. I'd spent like the week before like hanging out with my family and just relaxing. But when we started out on that, it was 2 laps, So when we started out, I was like, all right, let's go. And I took off and I stayed in first place all the way through the first lap. Got passed up in the second. And as soon as I started the second one, my hip flexors like locked up. And I was miserable the entire second loop. I like had to force a smile and like, this is fun. And like, I'm having a blast, but it was miserable. But I finished, I think I was like 30 minutes after second place. Like I only got 3rd because there weren't many females, but it was cool. Like I got the 3rd place there. That was just kind of my introduction. Like, oh, this is fun. Like I'm kind of good at it. It wasn't until I came to Grit Fitness at the end of 2017, really beginning of 2018. And, really came there because they had talked about their pro team and their pro team had like a bunch of advantages to it. And I was like, I want to try this for a couple years, like their pro team. But once I started, I came there for about a week, tried out for the pro team. And that's when I was at that point where I was like, okay, clearly like I'm not half bad at this, but I have no clue what I'm doing. And like, I could get better, but I have no idea where to start. So that's when I talked to Kenny and I was like, look, like I want to get better at this. I have no idea where to start, like help. And that's when things like really changed, like start messing around on the obstacles. You start learning about running and like all this stuff that I was like, oh, because I still knew nothing about, I walked at some point on every single one of those. The obstacles were okay, but it was like, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just having fun.
Did you have a trainer or anything, or do you have a trainer, or is it just, did Kenny teach you some of this? Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Kenny's an animal?
He was like, well, no, Kenny just like tells me what to do. Like, because I'll do whatever. But Kenny, when I talked to them, I was like, okay, look, like, I don't know what to do. And Kenny was like, okay, like, I can help. So he started like giving workouts, and like, there's a couple things that he taught me or showed me in those first couple months that like still have made a huge difference. Like, he taught me how to like get momentum into a swing. And it was just like this simple, like, pull your knees up and kick your feet out. And I was like, oh, and I've used that. Like, it's one of those like, and just those basic little things that he started like, hey, do this workout and do this one, do a farmer's carry for a really long time. All these things where I was like, this is dumb. Like, it doesn't really make any sense. But I quickly started seeing like, while racing, I'm like, oh, okay, like, this is getting better. And then the running took a lot longer to come. I dislike running, and it took me I don't know. I didn't like it for the longest time, and I like really fought it. And I was like, I didn't like doing the workouts. Because I have no running background, so I had no concept of like any of like, you know, tempo runs and sprints and all this kind of stuff. I was like, it's just all dumb. I just want to do the obstacle. So that took a while longer. It wasn't really until like, I guess it's been just over a year now that I've taken the running a little more seriously.
And when you mean seriously, what are you doing specifically?
Like, I do a sprint workout once a week, and I run every day now.
How many miles are you putting on a week?
It depends. I still kind of do it whenever I want. But I would say I kind of go more by month, I would say. And I'm typically at least 200 a month. So it's only, I guess, like 50 a week. Yeah, 50 a week.
Yeah.
200 to 300 is kind of average per month. But I'm, I just like to do stuff. I don't like the routine. And I'm trying to change that, because routine is what makes a difference. So I do a sprint workout every week now. I run in the morning 3 times a week. And like, there's different things that I'm like doing to like, okay, like actually getting on some kind of routine, because I just kind of do what I want when I want.
I think that's kind of what gives you your edge, is that you're having fun.
Yes.
And a lot of people forget to do that. We talk all the time about Born to Run, and those guys at Born to Run that run the Copper Canyons. The edge they had was they were actually just having fun. So when they ran Leadville there at the end, like the last few miles, they noticed that they were like, kicking around rocks, laughing, enjoying, and everybody else was just in hell.
Yeah.
So we see that when you run, or even in the Titan games, you always have a smile on. So how do you keep that?
I think it's kind of I emphasize, I would say I put a lot more pressure on the experience than on the results. Like, on the, like, expectation wise, I want it to be a fun experience. And that, like, sounds dumb. Like, I sign up for 100 milers. Like, the experience is not going to be fun, but it's the experience, I guess, of like pushing myself and having a hard time, and then like finishing it. Like, I'm all about that. The time obviously is a bonus and is really nice, but like, if I'm not having fun, like if I'm not enjoying myself, like what's the point really? Like, and there's some, I guess it's kind of like, I would say I'm pretty competitive. Like, I definitely push hard, but I don't have so much like, I mean, I know when I first started, like I had no concept of pace at all. And I got a watch because Kenny told me to get a watch and like, hey, you need to start like tracking runs, that kind of thing. But I was like, I would take it off every time I would race, because I'm like, I don't care how fast I'm running. Like, I'm going to run as fast as I can. I'm going to slow down if I want to or have to. Like, and so it's kind of that whole thing of like, now I wear a watch and I like to see my pace, but it's not because I'm trying to stay on pace, although I kind of am. So it's kind of that like, I try to, and I do this because I enjoy it. Like, if I weren't enjoying it, like I wouldn't be doing it. And so I kind of feel like I keep that, like, this is fun. Like, this is a new experience. It sucks sometimes a lot. Like, I'm pretty miserable. I've cried harder than I've ever cried on ultras, like hurt more than I've ever hurt. But it's the whole, like, that experience is still like adding up to like a cool experience by the end of it.
You have a very healthy balance of, you're able to balance it well. Going through your Instagram photos. Yeah. Like Mike was saying, even on some of those crazy races, or even when you're hanging by, what is that obstacle called when you're doing the peg holes?
The pegboard, or Gibbons is.
I think she was talking about the Gibbons one.
Yeah. But holding on by.
You're always smiling now. Yeah.
No, because it's fun. It's like an experience. Like, this is a challenge. Like, and I practice enough. Like, I put enough work and effort into it. Like, I'm training for this, and I'm trying to get better and stronger and faster. But like, the race is like, that's just go time. Like, just go and do it, and whatever it is what it is. Like, I often have like regrets and like I could have done that differently or whatever. But it's also like a lot of like just go do it. Like,
What's the first race where you won?
I think the first race that I really won would have been a Spartan sprint in Houston.
Why do you say really won?
Or that's the one that I claim as my first one. I think I won I think I won it was a Warrior Dash. I think I won a Warrior Dash like earlier that month. And I don't think I'd won a 5K yet. I don't know. That one though, like, that was my, like, okay, I won against like legit competitors, and like this was like a legit race, and like I really had to like dig for it. So it was a Spartan sprint in Houston. I guess it was 2018, being in 2018.
And now you're just winning a lot of them, right?
Yeah, I win sometimes, I lose sometimes. I get a lot of seconds, which is kind of frustrating.
Yeah, you're still very young though. So when I went to Grit for those 3 days,
just 3 days,
1.5.
Yeah, just 3 days. We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
You're stronger, and not only than the females in the gym, but also all the males. Like no one could hold it. It seemed that way in the gym. Yeah,
The guys said that too.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
All the guys. So how does that feel like? I mean, you're a coach at Grit Fitness.
Yes.
You do that every day a week?
Every day, a lot of times a day.
What are the classes? Because you're there at 4:30,
Yeah.
which is the earliest class.
I coach, we have 3 morning classes, and I coach all of those every morning. It's 4:30, 6, and 8. And then I make the schedule. And so we've got like the 3 different locations. Some of the coaches feel differently about it than I do, but I like to try to be at each location at some point during the week. So I actually have enough, like I'm at the Lake Jackson location, but I have 3 coaches there that are able to coach some of the evening classes. So I try to like leave them there and go to some of the other locations as much as I can. So, but I still end up coaching Lake Jackson is my primary one. We have just 2 evening classes now. Used to be a lot different, but we have just the 2 evening classes, and I coach in Lake Jackson about twice a week, and then West Columbia. I think I do like 3 classes total, and then I try to do an evening over in Bay City.
Just all over the place.
Yeah. And you get into a routine or something. So she doesn't just sit at the gym and wait for the next class to come. No. I've seen her put on a 20-pound vest and run as many miles she can between classes.
Well, so I had to get there because I definitely had when I first started coaching a lot, because I started out with just like 3 classes a week. You know, when I first started coaching back in, I think it was the end of 2018 that I first started coaching. And I was coaching like 3 classes a week, and that's really doable. Like you show up there, you coach the class, like whatever. Now that I'm coaching, like I haven't done the math lately. I used to do it a lot because I'm like, this is too much. But I'm coaching 30-ish classes a week, I think. I definitely have had to try to figure out how to like balance, coaching and like being involved in the class, and like most people come to the gym and that's like their workout time, but I am at the gym all the time and I just want to get out of there. So it was kind of hard to figure out a routine of like, okay, like everybody else is working out and good for them, but like I still have to get my workout in. And so I've kind of found a balance of like I can work out with some classes, or I do things in between classes, and trying to like still like take care of myself. Like it was hard for a while because everybody sees me at the gym all the time and they assume I'm working out. So it was honestly kind of easy to just be like, sure, I'm working out. Like, yeah, no, I take naps in between classes. Like I'm just dying here, to getting to a point where I'm like, okay, like I do the workout each day. I have a bonus workout. I run before class. I run in between class. I run after, whatever, So it's definitely taken a while to get there. I did not used to always do that.
It's impressive.
It would be like, finish the class, like, okay, I'm going to turn the lights off and go take a nap for a little bit because I'm tired.
You have good timing too, because I pulled up at the light and the class at 4:30. It was like 4:25, and they were running like 6-minute miles to the gym. And like I swear, like 1 minute till I saw the lights turn on, and they went in, and they were turning on music.
We're ready to go.
Yeah, it was like. It's legit. So you do get your workout in, and that's impressive too, because you do some of the classes as well. Like while we're doing the class, you'll do some of the workouts. But
some of the classes, it's easy. So that's the other thing is I never spent any time in a gym before Grit Fitness, and so I really liked Grit. I really liked the way the coaches or the classes were led, the workouts, all that kind of thing. But and I really liked the class because I've tried a couple times. Going to a gym and just like doing all the different machines and stuff like that. I can't do that. So I really liked the workouts there, but I liked the class aspect of it. And so now that I'm like in charge of the class, like I don't ever get to go to classes anymore. So it's kind of hard to figure out that like some workouts, like some days it's easier to work out with a class. Some classes are easier to work out with, and kind of trying to fit all that in. Like it's fun to work out with a class. So I try to do that when I can, but it doesn't always happen.
You actually plan the workouts for all the locations in Brazoria County?
No.
Okay.
I don't write the workouts. I help with it sometimes. I do the scheduling.
You should be doing that. Who's doing the workouts?
Who's doing that? Who do we need to talk
guy.
to?
Is it Kenny?
I don't know. Kenny contributes as well.
Oh, but you can take Kenny now.
It's been like a year now that we've had one of the co-owners, Reese, has been doing most of the programming. Okay. So he does the majority of it. A lot of us coaches give like input and we'll adjust things as needed or give kind of feedback and all that kind of thing. But Reese is the guy to get mad at. Don't get mad at me. I will. Well,
let me write his name down. Reese.
What's his Instagram? Spell it out.
Pieces. He should. If that's not it, I don't know what it would be.
So one fun thing though, and like Jackson knows, I like to do surprise finishers, and I will take the credit for every single one of those because they're great and everybody hates them, and I enjoy that.
They're not great.
They're really good.
At one point they were like, Kris, it's not a surprise anymore if we know it's coming. Like, why do you call it a surprise finisher still?
What are the ones that I experienced were the dead hangs and the wall sits. What are the
I'll do everybody hates the air bike, so I like to say, all right, finish the 10 calories on the air bike. Everybody hates heavy carries, but it's a good like, okay, we just worked out, now like just go run, go do something and like just finish them. We'll do a lot of like Tabatas, which I think I might have done one of those with you, where it'll be a static hold for 20 seconds, rest for 10 and go to a different one. Or I just kind of sometimes during the class I'm like, okay, let's come up with something here.
So each coach gets to float around and go to each location, or y'all have to be dedicated to one location?
Oh yeah, no, everybody, all the members, all the coaches belong to every single location. I think it's really cool that a lot of people stick to just one location, but they're still familiar with two people in the different locations, which like we have a Facebook group that's like a members only Facebook group, and
a cult.
That helps that helps like produce that, like, so we'll have sometimes, I mean, several times when I've coached in Bay City, somebody from one of the other gyms will stop by and I'm like, hey, what are you doing here? And they're like, oh, I'm just in the area, want to get finished up the evening here and going to get a workout in. Or, somebody will, so we'll definitely have floaters, but everybody kind of has their home gym, and the coaches are the same way. The coaches definitely, I mean, I have like my 3 Lake Jackson coaches. I'm a Lake Jackson coach, but actually I don't think I've had them coach in other places a couple times, and then I'll pull people from West Columbia sometimes. So
I think you're I guess in my opinion, you're probably the face of grit, but beyond Kenny, just because you're so well known, you're so out there.
Be careful.
I know, right?
Yeah.
You get mad.
No, I think I'm just kind of one of the ones that, I don't know, I'm like a fresh face. I definitely am there a lot of the time. Yeah. And I kind of put myself out there, so it's just kind of the name people think of. But like, I wouldn't really say I'm the face of grit. Like, honestly, the people that get people to come to grit, it's not me. It's the people that have like normal jobs and have normal lives that tell their neighbor like, hey, you should come to grit, or their coworker.
It's people like you that they want to join grit because of you. Like my wife, she hates working out, but she wants that. She's always talking about Kris. She's like, hey, Kris added me on Facebook. Kris is following me now. And I'm like, oh God, look at me, I'm lifting too.
Yeah.
Well, I think everybody's looking for like, that's why people call it a cult. Like everybody's looking for a place to belong, like a place to like be somewhat like they matter, whatever it is, like, or where they just feel like they can go and like, and I like to help kind of create that. Like if somebody comes to my gym, like I want to make them feel welcome and like, we're glad you're here. Yep. We're glad you're getting your workout on. And like, and that's what keeps people coming back. And I kind of need people to keep coming back. So.
It's kind of like Cheers, man. Everybody knows your name. It's like at 4:30, everybody's, giving high fives and they know each other's name, talking about what happened throughout the weekend. So it's got to give at least the 4:30 class. I don't know of any of the other classes, but
no, definitely like all those classes have that. I mean, the biggest class, and it's kind of, it's been like infamously big for a long time, would be the 8 a.m. class in West Columbia. And like, that's the one we like to put on our Instagram feed a lot. There's easily like 20, 25 people there regularly. And that one too, like, it's still like, I mean, everybody, it's the accountability and people there, like, buddy up, like
right.
And that's, I don't know if you see that at 4:30, when Christina brings her crew at 4:30 on like Tuesday mornings, like, and there's all those 4 girls that come that don't really come a whole lot, but when they all come, and like everybody has kind of somebody that's like, hey, you going to the gym? Like, let's go.
I had
but it's
somebody
within
too.
a group setting, so I think it's kind of cool.
I had someone for a while.
You had somebody too
for 2 classes.
Let's get it out there now. It works better for me working out at my house right now with the kids.
I knew it. You just don't like us.
No, I love y'all, but my wife is gonna go. I think.
Yes.
I think she's really. But
she has time. But
she said she's coming on Monday.
She'll be there.
Good.
I think Grit has it going on too, because it's not just. From what I saw, there's really great athletes there, but then there's also the people that are looking to make a change for themselves.
Yeah.
And I think Grit does a good job. The workouts are catered for everybody in between, right?
Yeah.
The crazy athletes who can lift 90 pounds and do the lunges for a minute straight. And then the same folks can do lightweight the same amount of reps. You know, it's all the way around.
I think that's what's really neat about it is it creates that, I mean, pretty much all of our workouts, we have some workouts that are like rep based, but almost everything is that time based. And so it's just time under tension. Like, hey, just move for 30 seconds. And if your knees are bothering you and you can't do a lunge, like, hey, grab a wall, like drop the weight, use the suspension straps. Like, there's something that everybody can do. And that's obviously what I want people to do is like, just come and just move. And like, that will help. I know, some of the, I wouldn't say like the biggest, well, some of the most, to me, like the neatest feedback is that people come to the gym like, okay, they want to lose weight, they want to get fit, but they start realizing like just the minimal amount of stretching. Well, the stretching and like moving properly, which is, I always am like, move properly. Like, don't move fast, don't move like heavy weights, just move properly. And people, I feel like one of the first things people start saying is that like they're more flexible and they can move better. Like their mobility improves, one of the first things. And like, if you can't move, like what's the point? So I think that's kind of cool. Like when they're all like stiff and they're like, oh, like I can move better. My legs aren't as stiff. My arms aren't as stiff. So I think that's kind of neat. Like that's the kind of the, like first be able to move and then we can get strong, we can get fast, whatever. But.
Definitely.
I like the stretching aspect of it. That's helped me a lot. You do like some untraditional stretching. I feel like the knee to knee thing we do.
Twisted knee drop.
Twisted knee drop.
Oh, shin box.
The like scorpion one. It's like, now I'm at work trying to like, I'm like, well, I can probably jump over that. You know, like I jumped over a bush today. Like I'm getting some energy back. And
they're just basic movements. And if you spend a little bit of time, like, oh, I feel that in my hips. And like my hips feel a little looser now. Like nobody thinks to move that way. But like, okay, just take a few minutes, like actually stretching some. And like it goes a long ways towards fitness.
Definitely. So when you did Grit Fitness transition you or give you the springboard to go into the Titan Games?
You don't want to just talk about Grit? I thought we were just going to talk about Grit.
We can.
We got topics. We got to
make through this.
Yeah. So Grit definitely like gave me some of that like fitness foundation kind of to where I was like, okay, because I had no concept of like, I mean, Kenny talks about it. The first workout that I came to was for some, he asked that people that applied to the pro team come to like their, I can't think what it now, a ribbon cutting. And they did a workout there. And we were doing kettlebell swings, which is like a hinge movement. And like, I coach that now. And like, all the coaches were there because they have like, or at the time they had, I think 12 coaches and everybody was there saying hi to people, trying to talk to people, you know. So we're doing this workout and I had at least 4 of them come over and try to fix my form. Like Kenny says, when I first came there, I moved like a baby deer. Like I had no concept of any of that movement. And they came over and I was like, I'm doing what you're saying. And it's funny now that I coach and I know how hard it is to like make those connections. When I came, I had zero concept of working out like at all. Like I climbed trees. I would ride horses. I started riding horses a lot. And then I would do handstands. And that's like the only way I had any kind of like leg or upper body strength, I think.
The handstands, we have a big question.
Yeah.
Are you holding this thing and you're like, all right, take the picture, hurry up? Or are you holding this thing for a while, that one-handed handstand?
Oh, the one hand, I can hold it for a little while, but it's more like the middle of a cartwheel. I'm not that good at
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, dang.
That's impressive.
One-handed. Either way, it's impressive. I can't do it.
It's kind of, I can definitely like pause in the center, but.
Yeah. That's legit.
Yep.
But continue. Yeah, horses.
Yeah.
Is that where
So-
this grip strength's coming from? That's
No,
like,
that
where's
is-
the grip strength? I gotta
just
know.
the trees. I have massive
just
hands. Climbing trees and massive hands. That's all I got. I don't. I don't really. The grip strength thing, like I've noticed it gets better the more I'm like doing like pull-ups, like working with bars, and then the kettlebells. I've noticed my grip strength gets better from that, but I don't know how people go from like no grip strength to grip strength. Like I've always had it, so I couldn't really say.
Mike was saying that you rode bulls when you were younger too, right?
I might have done that. I've done a little bit of everything.
That shouldn't be something you did in the past.
Why not?
I don't know. It's just because I haven't rode one.
If people do it, I'm gonna try it. Like that's kind of my approach.
That takes some grip. How old were you when you were doing that?
I didn't do anything really until
10?
I was 18.
Yeah.
No, I was 18.
Cow.
Yeah, I didn't do anything until I was 18.
That's so insane.
Just kind of off in my little corner. I kind of tell people like I don't have a lot of I don't get like any cultural references because we grew up like we didn't watch movies, we didn't watch TV, none of that. I always say like I didn't just grow up under a rock; it was a pile of rocks. Like, so I crawled out of there at 18, and it was great. Like I had a great childhood. Like I was carefree and happy. Like it was great. But I didn't really do anything until I was 18. I was probably bull riding 19-ish.
Your brother's gotten you into bull riding, I guess?
No.
No?
No. They think I'm crazy.
She was the standout.
Yeah, I'm definitely kind of the reckless one. Well, I say that, but they're all, so not my oldest brother, but the second one, he's 5 years older than me. And he's the one that I kind of like idolize and like, I would say is my biggest inspiration. He now, like I talk to him on the phone, he's like, I don't run any more than 5 miles. You shouldn't run any more than 5 miles. He's all about yoga and stuff. But when he was younger, he did crazy stuff. Like he signed up for a marathon and went and ran it. Like he didn't know what he was doing, but training for that marathon, he like ran 18 miles into town and like would do this stuff. And he was 5 years older than me and we weren't like extra close, but I like watched him do this stuff and he would just go and like do all this crazy stuff. And I was like, what is wrong with this guy? Like, but as soon as I got the chance, I was like, he'll do this. I don't even really know. Nobody really knows everything he's done. But there was one time we were taking a family trip up to Iowa and he was going to ride his bicycle up there. And he made it all the way to like North Texas, but his bike kept on falling apart. So he like hitchhiked back home. He just goes and does stuff. I know when he and my older brother were little, we were living in Arizona. They would like backpack across this mountain range from one grandparent's house to the other grandparents or something. They like kill rattlesnakes. Like I think in my mind they're kind of like legends. Like, but they would come home with these rattlesnake skins and like little 6-year-old me. I'm like, what on earth? Like they would go. We lived in this river valley in Arizona, and they would like take canoe trips. They'd go camping in the cliffs on the other side of the river. And I remember my dad was always like, yeah, just whatever. My mom would always freak out. There'd be like rainstorms, and they'd be out there camping, and she'd be freaking out, but. The two of them like did all this crazy stuff to where I was like, I just want to like, they kind of like opened up that like, and I don't even know everything they've done. The older brother, the one that's 5 years older than me, he like got on a train and was going to go to Arizona on a train, like kind of hitchhiking on a train, which is probably very illegal.
Oh, wow.
But he's told me he made it like, I think all the way to West Texas, but he'd been like laying in the sun in the train car, like all day, was out of water, was like half dead, and like hitchhiked walked into town and ended up back at home, I guess. Like
just found a way.
Yeah. No. And even more recently, I guess 5 or 6 years ago, he's lived up in Oregon now for, I think 5 years or something. But coming home for Christmas, he decided to hitchhike home for Christmas and made it like all the way down to North Texas, and then he finally had to rent a car to get the rest of the way.
What a cool dude, man.
Yes. No, so this is what I grew up with, like this, like, what is he doing? Like he just kind of, he didn't disappear, but like he'd just go somewhere and then come back and like, wait, what? Like, and he didn't really tell my parents much because they'd freak out. He, once he was living in Oregon, he was going to hitchhike up to Alaska, like during the summer or something, and he made it halfway through Canada and spent a summer there, like helping this guy build a house across a lake. Like just this, like, and honestly, like, think this is all true. I don't think I'm making this up, but I have these, like, he just seems like super serendipitous and just like goes and does something. And like, and I would kind of like see that and I'm like, oh, this is cool. Anyways. So no, they didn't get me into bull riding, but that brother like made me like a bit like, yeah, why not try it? Like,
yeah.
kind of like a YOLO, but more like it's life. Like, go do something. Like,
Yeah. Well,
anything,
it sounded like it
everything.
was planting seeds in your head.
For sure.
While you were growing up watching all that.
Yeah. And now, I mean, they all kind of think I'm crazy, I think. But
Your sense of normal is like completely off with your brother doing all that stuff. So
no,
nothing's impossible.
My brother is a legend in my eyes. Like,
that's awesome.
cool.
That's legit. So back to Titan Games.
Titan Games, yeah.
So
or bull riding, no. Titan Games.
So grit fitness.
No, bull riding.
Well, what do you mean?
Did you go 8 seconds?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
she
well,
killed the bull, man.
The first one I went 8 seconds on, he like paused a bunch, so it wasn't a very good ride. And then I went 8 seconds when I was going against a guy, and I won that one. And it was a pretty badass bull, so I'm pretty proud of that one.
Where did you ride bulls at?
It was these practice pens in Marion, so it's like, I mean, San Antonio area. They wouldn't let me ride in the rodeo because I was a girl, and they said guys are there to see, or people are there to see guys ride bulls, not girls. And I was pretty mad about that. But I'd go out to the practice pens, and these were like, so cows or bulls get like ratings based on how they move, like either side to side, up and down, whatever. Yeah. And so the ones that they would ride in the rodeos, like they kind of know what to expect from them most of the time. But these were like ones that were fresh. Like nobody really knew what to expect. And nobody knew if they were good either. Because some bulls just like don't care. Like, I mean, you can try to make them mad, but like, so I go out to the practice pens, and like the guys there, I think were a little more like calculated and like picking their bulls. But I was like, there's an open bull, let me get on it. Like, and of course, I mean, I would borrow, you have a vest, you have a helmet, gloves, all that kind of stuff. I just borrow everything. Like, I'll get on a bull. So I go out there in the evenings.
How did you hear?
Wednesday evening.
So that was your practice? I mean, how did you hear about it?
I started working at a local rodeo and kind of met some people there. I think that was kind of how. Yeah.
Hey, you almost got that similar life your brother does, just doing stuff.
I swear, like that's kind of, I think subconsciously my goal is to just like
that's her to top them somehow.
Yeah.
Did you fall or have any close calls on the bull?
Yeah, I mean, you fall off every time.
Not everybody. Got to be good enough.
Oh no, everybody falls off at some point. There was one time where I don't even, like, it wasn't a super traumatic like fall at the time, but I did something to my shoulder, and I had like a bum shoulder for a month-ish. It was something was just off in my shoulder. A friend or a lady at the barn I worked at like tried to massage it, and it was just, I don't know. I still don't know what it was because I don't really go to doctors. I just kind of like, it'll fix itself, you know? But from that now, one of my collarbones like sticks out a little bit further than the other because it's just kind of, something was off there. It doesn't bother me anymore.
Yeah.
So.
It just falls off.
Yeah.
What about horse riding? How did you come? Do you own a horse?
I've never owned a horse. Probably never will.
That's a big hobby of yours, though. You do it.
I do
as often as possible.
I just grew up like the concept of horses. I loved the concept of horses, and I was like, horses just cool. And that was when I turned 18. I was wanting to get work, wanting to make money, go do something. So I called a local barn and was like, hey, I want to work. Like, anyway, so I just started working for barns in the area, like mucking stalls, feeding horses, bringing horses in and out of the pastures. And I think that kind of goes along with the whole, like, just kind of doing whatever I can. Like, I would start just riding the horses in from the pasture and out to the pasture and, like, just kind of getting familiar with them. There was the barn that I really started. Well, yeah, so since I started working at like 18, I started just like from the bottom, but I worked at several different barns doing different disciplines. So there's like Western, there's English, there's different types of Western, there's different types of English. And I've done a little bit of everything, just kind of from like, working. And then somebody would like, hey, we need help over here. And I'd come over there and kind of learn what they were doing. So I did Western reining is where I learned a lot from. And then I also did eventing, which is English riding, but eventing at the barn that I worked at there is when I started. The lady I was supposed to feed twice a day is what my job was. That's like my official job was like,
you're the supposed to.
I know.
Feeding horses twice a day. But I came out there and I was like, can I ride some of them? And some of them were hers. Some of them were boarded. Like people were boarding them there. And she let me get on one of the horses and she was like, oh, like, saddle and all that. And I was like, can I just like hop on it? And she was like, I guess. She was like, you signed a waiver. And that was kind of the beginning. Her whole thing was like, you signed a waiver. And they knew they figured out pretty quickly. I was kind of like, kind of crazy. But they also realized like, oh, you signed a waiver, like you're responsible for yourself. So I would feed and like ride for, hours out there. On my day off, I'd just like go and sit on my favorite horse, like while they were all out to pasture. Like, anyway, so with riding, like I got really comfortable with the horses and with riding them. Through that, a guy from out east that came out there to do like a little clinic at their barn saw me riding and was like, this girl could be really good at riding because I have a really good sense of balance apparently. So I went out east and did like showing for a little while. But you have to have money and you have to have a lot of experience, or not experience, but like background and like family backing to do that. Yeah. So that didn't really work out. But horses were like, I would say horses were my like, okay, this is what I want to do until I found the running. And then the running took over and it comes to like the running, like I don't need a whole lot of money. I'm not relying on a horse. Like I'm not relying on something else. Like it's just me.
It seems like the horse riding though, that's your break away from all the athletics. It almost seems like it's like your meditation.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Horse ride. I mean, I was born to ride horses. Like I've fallen off a lot of horses, but like for reasons like, I'm like horses like make sense. And there's like I love horses. So now the horse riding that I do is endurance riding. There's several ladies in this area that do endurance rides, which endurance is anything from like, I guess their intro ride is like 12, 15 miles, but then they do 25, 50, 100 miles, which is actually where like ultra running started, which you probably know. But I started riding with them, made different friends, and now I have a lady that she's the coolest, but she has a young horse. She has a young horse that she initially wanted me to ride so she could ride it eventually, but she's kind of scared of it. And the more I started riding it, she was like, you should just ride it. Like, and so I'm actually doing a 50 on this young horse at the end of the month. And then we'll see where we go from there. But yeah, I've done a 25 on her. And it's really, I mean, I kind of get into all these things. And I think my brother is probably the same way, but just kind of like, I'm very much an opportunist. And like, if something pops up and like, there's a chance of doing it, like, well, let's go. Like, it's kind of like, what are the, I probably don't spend enough time like weighing the pros and cons. It's like, well, this sounds like fun. Like, let's just go. So I've definitely like, I think I probably have been blessed with a lot more opportunities than plenty of people get, but most of the opportunities I get, I kind of go for them. So it's kind of cool. But.
What is the, I have no idea, but what is like you say like we're going to do a 25 miler or a 50 miler.
Yeah.
Is that real hard on your body to ride a horse for that long?
It's not on mine. It can be hard.
I mean, it's a long time on a horse, and it's kind of rowdy, right? It's not like riding a car.
Yes, but I mean, you kind of get conditioned to it. I guess, like you were saying, I'm pretty comfortable on a horse. Like to me, that's more like relaxing. So it's definitely like some element of work, but it's also to me like very relaxing. Like the flow of a horse, like all of that is just like. So, I mean, I've never done 50 miles, so I can't say that for sure. But I did 25, and, like, it was just fun. The whole thing was fun. Like,
it would be, the fact that you did 25 miles, I guess you got more confidence to ride 50 miles. It's not like you would take a horse that you don't know and then ride 25 miles. You had to work with that horse for a while, I imagine.
A little bit, yeah. 25 is kind of like their intro distance, and like any horse can pretty much ride 25.
Even if you've never worked with it? Okay,
I mean, any
you
horse.
You probably would.
Well, no, I mean, it really depends more on the horse than the person. Like, if the horse is capable of doing it, I could definitely do it. Some people could probably. But the horse. I mean, obviously you can't take like a trail riding horse, like a just basic horse and go like, all right, let's go 25. But these horses are like, we take them for 10, 12 mile rides on the beach. Like they're well conditioned and they could easily do it. And I can do it. They can do it. I can do it.
Poor horse, man. I wouldn't want to be matched up with you.
No, but that's with the endurance riding. There's vet checks. Like you really have to take care of the horse. And like there's, holding periods where you have to let the horse cool down and like take a little breather. And their heart rate has to drop a certain amount before you go back out. So,
my family.
What kind of Garmin do they use? I mean, how do you know?
What kind of shoes you got?
They got the chest strap?
No, they listen for gut sounds, like everything.
Oh, man.
My family used to take horses to Colorado.
Yeah.
I think they might still,
really?
But to do hunting and stuff.
Okay. Yeah. That's a different, that's definitely different, like the packing
Yeah.
It's kind of a different,
yeah,
but I mean, that's definitely, they're covering a lot of miles, but probably a little bit slower than
Oh, definitely.
horses.
Yeah.
That's cool. No, horses are so cool. And that's like, I think I've always just kind of like, I'll do anything with horses. Like,
That's cool. Yeah, you can tell you're just light up when you talk about horses. So yeah, I hope you can get one day. Well, if you had your own horse, what would you name it? You haven't thought about this?
I've never thought about
Really?
that.
Well,
I've
you're
never
gonna have
thought
to
about
come back
owning
and-
a horse. I've never really thought about it. I mean, there's so many horses. I've never paid to ride a horse. I've always like worked in exchange for riding horses, and I don't know that I'd ever own a horse. Like, there's plenty of horses out there that nobody takes care of.
I'll
Nobody
just
wants
use
to
someone
ride.
else's.
Yeah.
So I guess that kind of leads to ultra running. What is the next ultra race that you plan on doing?
The next ultra race.
Moab.
That's what I'm saying.
Moab.
When is that one?
Coming soon. June?
I think
I
it's
signed up
June,
for a lot
July.
of races.
June.
I'm trying to get into the Silver Rush 50 out in Leadville. I really want to do Leadville. So
Yeah.
I did a qualifier like at the end of last year and didn't make it. Silver Rush 50 is another qualifier to get into the Leadville 100. I haven't really finished planning my races for this year, but I do a lot of them. I'm doing 100K in Vegas in May. I think that's kind of my next ultra. We'll see, unless I come up with something else before then. But
How many races do you have this year?
I don't know.
Do you think? Just give me a ballpark.
There's 52 weeks, right?
Yeah.
I'd say probably 30.
Last time I checked. 30?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Now, and those are like OCRs. Some of those are like events at my gym, but like I would say I haven't really done the math, but if I had to guess it, I probably am doing something like 30 weekends out of the year ish.
Most people don't do that many ultras in
Most
1 year.
people don't love them as much as I do.
I thought it was like, how did you start liking running though? Because I'm the same as you. I wanted to go to Grit because I wanted to jump on the stuff.
Yeah.
But running for me it's still hard to enjoy it. I like the after effects. I like how I feel after.
Yeah.
I like I like where I go mentally during, but I don't always go there.
Yeah.
What keeps you going with running?
Races. I like to race, and so I run so that I can race. That's really the only reason. The other thing that helped a lot was everybody at the gym, of course, is trying to get into running, trying to do all that. And when I started running with other members from the gym and kind of slowing it down, like taking the pressure off of me, it's not like, okay, I have to go run 5 miles. It's like, I'm going to go help her run 5 miles. And it's probably at a different pace than I would normally run. And like going off of their pace, their like, how they feel. But that really helped me get into more of a routine of like running, period, because I hated running. Like I hated running. But so running for like other people like got me into running, period. And I think a lot of it too was seeing other people like push themselves and like being able to be like, they're really trying really hard. And like, I get to just kind of sit here and watch. Like it was really, I think that was kind of that was probably the bigger thing of, there was a girl that I started running with December of last year, and she would come to the 6 a.m. class and we'd run afterwards. And we'd run 2 to 4 miles, and running does not come easily to her. Like she works really hard to be able to run. Like she's not not ever going to be a super great runner, but she did cross country for her last year in high school and like really works hard and wants to do the best she possibly can. And I see everybody at the gym doing that. And I think that's a lot of was like seeing them doing that and kind of getting to be a part of it. Cause everybody like thinks I like running and thinks I love it. And I was like, oh,
I hate it.
But seeing, being able to help them kind of made me realize like, okay, why am I not doing that? And it helped me to like, them all pushing. I was like, okay, so like, what can I do? If these people can do this, like you see them just like emptying the tank. And that made me kind of like, you see the satisfaction they get. It really was like satisfying to me to help them get there. And it kind of helped me like, okay, I should probably like be trying to do that too. So
Are you interested in doing like the Moab 240s? And I think there's some crazier races, like some 300 milers and some 400 milers.
I don't think so.
No?
I'm too young. I honestly don't think I should really be doing 100 milers yet. Cause I've only been running for like 3 years and I don't have the kind of like, what do you call it? Like endurance, like the foundation threshold kind of thing built up. So
Really?
think I've had like enough not injuries, but like tweaks and things to where I'm like, if I put, and that's another thing, like, I try to put a lot of miles is I just need to like build a base. At as much as I'm like, oh, let's do everything we possibly can, like I've got a long time to run. Yeah. So I'm in no rush to like, I love hundreds. I will always do hundreds. But I tell myself every time I do them, when I'm the very youngest one there and the youngest one that finishes, like I'm probably too young to be doing this, but I really like them. So for me, I think 100 is kind of the max. I did a last man standing one last year, and that one I can do. But other than that, like the 200, 300 mile, like I'm not super like rushed to get into those.
What kind of injuries are you dealing with?
Injuries from not running at all. I had a lot of like, that's so having like, I wasn't doing anything active, so I wasn't having to, I mean, when I like hurt my shoulder with the bull riding, it was like, okay, like, let's just let it heal. So that's what I was really used to doing. It's like, okay, I'm just going to like, maybe not run for a week and like, it'll be fine again. But once I started like, okay, well, I'm still going to be running and like, this is bothering me. This needs to fix. The biggest problem has been like just muscular, like tightness and like understanding how everything like holds together. I had issues with form initially. Like I was heel striking a lot. And so my knee, I've had screwed up knees, ankles, my foot, like I was limping on it for a while. And when I first started racing, like my knee would be hurting really bad, so I would stop training, but I could still go and race. So it's kind of fun. Now that I'm like actually trying to train, I have to kind of like nip those in the bud and like, okay, my knee is starting to bother me. I need to fix something there.
I think what you're doing though is smart though. You're getting the stretches in. How's your diet like?
Yeah, that's all I want to know.
I told you had all about my diet.
Yeah. What do you eat?
So.
I want just give me a day. Hold on. Give me a Monday through Friday day. And then what does it look like on the weekends?
Okay. So for the last while, at Grit, Grit is like my family. They're my friends, they're my family, they're my life, they're my work, like everything. So thankfully, a lot of them have kind of like adopted me. And so people will bring food to the gym for me fairly often. I kind of have this, and I stop by people's houses pretty often. And if they're cooking something, like I'm probably going to sample it. For a long time, it's kind of a problem. And I'm changing it, but I've kind of said that I eat more like a raccoon than a person. Like if there's food, I'm going to eat it. I will not turn down like day old food, like whatever. Now, and especially like more recently, I'm realizing like I don't think I'm eating enough at all. So, and since my day starts so early, I typically get up between 2 and 2:30 to run before work. And I wake up like starving. So Monday through Friday, you want to like, what I eat.
Hold on. Before you get into that, what time do you go to bed?
Yeah.
What time do you go to bed?
I mean, ideally I would go to sleep at about 7 every night, but I work until 7:30 and don't get home till 8. I go to bed between 9 and 10.
So that's like, what, 6 hours, 5.5 hours, 6 hours?
4 or 5, 6 is the most I get. If I sleep in, I get 6. If I sleep in until 3 o'clock, I can get 6 hours during the week. So
freaking machine.
Yeah, you're a machine.
I used to take naps every day. But Kenny got on to me and was like, you need to sleep at night. So
Kenny's sleeps for the week.
Yeah.
Well, I was getting up like super early and working out and then like taking an hour long nap. And he was like, just sleep in and then work. But I work out way better if I do it first thing in the morning. So yeah. I'd rather get up at 2 and maybe be a little tired. But like, as long as I keep moving, like I'm fine.
So now that so it sounds like you're starting to eat a little bit cleaner, maybe.
A little cleaner. Yes. No, I've always, so I was chubby as a teenager for a while. Like I just ate like everything in sight, everything, anything. Like it was bad. And I was about 40 pounds heavier than I am now. And I changed that when I started going like, okay, I only really need to eat till I'm like satisfied and not till I'm stuffed. Cause it's just that, and so at that time I was kind of like, okay, like, maybe if I eat like stuff that's better for me instead of just like trash food. And my mom started getting like really health conscious and was like, no cold cereal, there's too much GMOs in it, like all this stuff. And so I kind of have like all that in the back of my head and I appreciate all that. Like I want, healthy stuff. Anyways, so I wouldn't say like, I don't ever eat fast food really. I like to, I don't I never eat fast. Okay, I'm like losing my train of thought now.
I think, aren't you eating those, Kenny's preparing meals now, right? Are you going to start eating those?
I've eaten some of them.
Uh-oh.
So what I found now is I have to eat a ton of food, like just to stay not hungry because I am starving all the time now because I'm just running too much. So I get up in the morning, I eat a full bowl of oatmeal at like between 3 and 4. by 7:00 I'm hungry again. So I pretty much, I live with Kenny's parents, and they always have a bunch of like leftover food. So every morning I just kind of scrounge through the fridge and try to find about 3 full meals. And I take those with me and I eat them like throughout the day. So they'll have leftovers from their Wednesday evening church. They'll have leftovers from dinner before. And I just kind of like, all right, it's like meat and vegetables and like a slightly satisfied meal. Like, there we go. And so I eat at about 3, 7. I'm hungry again at about 11. I go to Kenny's coffee shop a lot, 421 Coffee House. And I like getting like wraps and salads there. So I'll have that for like lunch. And then I kind of eat my last meal around 4:30, or around 4 before I go like in for work for the evening. But a lot of times I get home at 8:30 and I'm still hungry. So I'll eat another meal. But I just I still eat everything. So I say I'm trying to get my diet more, but it's like, it's good food. It's just a lot of it. And whenever I can find it.
You burn through it so much. I guess it really doesn't matter. And then you're just trying to find time to eat because you're going.
Well, for a while there, it was like I would just go and then I'd be starving. And I tried to like, I've tried to like, I try to schedule my days because my days are like somewhat structured, but there's also a lot of like kind of limbo time in there. And so I was like trying to schedule all that. And I asked Kenny, I was like, do I need to I should schedule in meals, shouldn't I? Because like I schedule everything else and then I'm like, I'm starving. But yeah, I'm still bad about meals.
Is there a particular food that's kind of a junk food, but you look forward to eating?
Probably pizza for sure.
Yeah.
Domino's
that's
pizza.
all I wanted you to.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted you to say was, do you eat pizza too?
I had one yesterday. No, for sure.
What's your favorite pizza place around here?
Oh, I just do Domino's.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Man.
So I don't like eating at restaurants. It takes too long to get food, and you're like paying people to pour water for you, and I don't understand that. Yeah. So I will go to the grocery store and get food like long before I'll go to a restaurant. I'm not a foodie.
All-Star is pretty good.
Domino's, though, you can order from the app. You get piece of the pie rewards. You get free pizza.
Oh, she knows.
Man, she knows. Yeah, she's a pro.
Yeah. No, and I get the thin crust, just the thin crust pizza with bacon and pineapple on it, and like I can eat an entire large pizza pretty quickly.
Everyone wants to know: do you dip it in ranch?
Ooh, no.
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 She's from up north.
Yeah, I'm a ranch guy. Just soak it in ranch.
No, that's not pizza anymore. That's like a chip.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I guess she's right.
Pizza is pizza. It's not for dipping. Pizza is perfect just the way it is. You don't have to dip it in anything.
I'm so confused now. Have you been doing it wrong?
I don't
you don't
think
need
so.
Parmesan on it. You don't need nothing. Pizza is pizza.
You have pineapple on your pizza.
Yeah.
What are you even talking
so
about? That's not pizza.
That's not even a thing.
You have fruit on your pizza.
Yes, it is. Yes, because you got to have all the food groups.
All the food groups. I just see the broken triangle we were talking about.
She wrote she's like, I got the fruit on there. Got some carbs. Looking good. All right. So Titan Games.
Titan Games.
Or do you want to talk about Ultra first? Because you mentioned something about Ultra.
Titan Games was kind of like a one-off. Like, it happened to be on TV, like, big whoop. Like, it was cool, and it definitely, like, put me on a map in a way. Put me on the map, whatever. But I wouldn't say it really, like, defines me. And
no, not at all.
Not that I, like, have a problem with it, but, like, when people, you're on the Titan Games, like, yes, like, 2 years ago. And, like, it was a cool experience, and, like, everything about it was awesome. But, like... now I would kind of identify more as like an ultra runner. So it's kind of my,
let's go to the ultra. But how was meeting the Rock?
We can talk about the Titan Games.
But how was meeting the Rock? That's all we want to know.
It was super cool. No, the whole experience, and that was another one. Like just kind of I had like seen stuff about it, and I was like, Titan Games, like that's cool, but like that's not me, whatever. And then somebody I talked to at a race. Like it was April, I think end of April is when the applications were supposed to be sent in, and he said that he knew the people that were casting or whatever, and they were looking for more females, and they were like, he was basically like, they'd take anybody. And I was like, well, if they'd take anybody, then I'd guess they'd take me. So I sent in like a last minute application. It was like trash. Like I didn't know, I was just like, well, why not just try it? So when I got like a call back and they were like, hey, so like, we think you have a story, like, let's help you. They like helped me create my like little bio video. And then I ended up getting on. I still, like, when I went out there the first time for the combine where they kind of, like, pulled a large group that they were going to pull some from, I was still like, okay, this is kind of a joke, like, whatever. Nobody knew what it was going to turn into. Nobody knew nothing. It was just, like, it just had the, the Rock tag to it. So it's kind of like, oh, this is cool. But I was still like, this is a joke. Like, this is clearly not my thing, whatever. And then from that to, like, the filming and realizing that, it was still... And then I think, you you say oh, you were smiling, you seem like you were having a fun time. I was just soaking up the experience. I was this is this can't be real, but I guess it's still happening. So let's just keep doing it. Every challenge that I went into, I was okay, this girl is going to beat me. I don't even have a chance. And then I came out of it and I won 4 challenges, 3 challenges, 4, I think. And then I got taken out on the last one. But every time I was this is fun. And it's the same. I mean, I think what we're saying, my non-foundation, just kind of well, let's just try anything. Definitely was kind of an advantage for me because I was all these people, they power lift and they know that they can deadlift this amount of weight and they can squat this amount of weight and they go to the gym and that's what they do. And my thing is just what can I do? I can do anything. I can do everything. So I show up there to this big challenge and they're going 1,000-pound wall. Like, that's insane. And like, you have to climb over these barrels. Like, what on earth? And my thing, you know, I'm always kind of looking for like the little tricks and like the ways to like, you know, like problem solve. Like, and that's what you're doing in OCR, which was my experience up to that point. So that was like, every time I won a challenge, I was like, wait, that just happened? Like, oh, I'm going to the next round. Like,
yeah.
So it was a really, really fun experience. Meeting The Rock was cool. So that's another, like, I don't have the cultural background of like watching him wrestle, like all that kind of stuff. Most of the people that were on the show were like, The Rock is super cool. And I only knew him from like movies. Like, I knew him as an actor. That's how I knew who he was. So I didn't have the whole, I mean, to me, like, he was a cool guy, but I really didn't know anything about him, nothing about where he'd come from, any of that. But it was really neat. Before the challenges started, like, he would be up on his little podium in the background, and I heard before the first challenge, he would do a little introduction, like, oh, you know, Melody and Christiana are going, and I heard him say my name, and I was like, oh, like, this is really happening. Like, he knows my name, he knows who I am. So, and then just there were a couple times, like, behind the scenes, like backstage, where, you know, we're standing around waiting because it's TV, like, it's very produced and like TV or cameras everywhere. But there were, you know, one time he like said, good luck tonight. And I was like, okay, thanks. And then like had a little conversation, and it was just a really, like, he knew who I was and was like actually like watching my progress. And I was like, this is kind of cool. Like,
what's cool about it, you look so young compared to the other girls that were on the show.
Oh, yeah.
And then when the competitions were about to start, and it's like, Kris is gonna get her ass kicked here because this girl looks freaking huge.
They're all like the
young.
guys almost.
I was 20.
Yeah, you look like a little
No,
baby face out there.
I was 21. Yeah.
You look young, little baby face. Didn't know what you were doing out there.
No experience.
But you mentioned problem solving. Like, there was a couple of points where you weren't smiling, but you were like, your eyes were squinting and you were trying to figure out what can I do? How can I solve this problem? And then you right when it snapped, and then you started smiling again. And you're like, I got it.
Yeah. No, there were definitely some things where I was like, I can't move that kind of weight. There was one, the Mount Olympus, where you have to go like all the way up. There's like 3 or 4 challenges going up, and then you came down those slides and dragged that big
that big ball. Yeah.
There was one of them, you have to crank that torch up, and once it lights, then you can come down. And I was like, I don't think I can move this weight, but like somehow I did.
You did it.
But that was another one where I came to it. A lot of people twisted it the wrong way and had to like twist extra. But I remember like looking over to see like, which way is the rope going here? Like, okay, I'm going the right direction. Like, and then it would like, it caught for me. So I wasn't having to like, But
my kids were like watching that when we were watching the YouTube videos. And then now they're just like picking up stuff around the house and throwing stuff.
Swinging stuff around. To see how much stuff I can knock down.
I think that's when my wife fell in love with you, actually. So.
I don't know about that. That's probably where she was like, I don't know about this girl anymore.
She wanted to do it too on TV. So.
Well, that's good. So it's a good transition to ultra running. So
I think what I think like the biggest benefit Titan Games had was coming from nothing and trying this OCR and, you know, all those different things. Even with the horses, like, I felt like I was coming into something that was already established, and I was kind of like an imposter, which everybody has that, or a lot of people have like the imposter syndrome. Like, am I really supposed to be here? And I felt that a lot with the horses, the showing out east, like, that didn't really turn out the way I like it could have or whatever. And then same with OCR, there were a couple different like drama things that happened, and I was like, am I really supposed to be here? Like, you know, I don't belong. I don't come from this. I just happened upon it, and I'm decently good at it. Like, and then the same with the Titan Games, but it was kind of cool with the Titan Games coming into it. Like, I clearly don't belong, but then I kind of like proved myself, and I was like, okay, like, maybe I do. And I think that was kind of a really big confidence booster of like, and I say that I also still view it very much as like, it was TV. Like, it was literally like 30 seconds and it was over. Like, but it still gave that little bit of like, okay, like I actually came out here kind of as an everybody. I think it was kind of like nobody knew what they were doing and I did good. And that kind of gave me a little bit of like, okay, like I guess I belong in the fitness thing. Cause I was still questioning like, is this fitness thing really for me? Like, I just kind of do what I want. Like, I'm not a serious athlete, whatever. And another thing, I think one of the bigger things that got me into that was I had done a 50 miler that year. That was my first like trail ultra. And so they were kind of like, this girl like kind of just started doing OCRs and now just kind of started doing ultras. And that was kind of like the slant they took like on my life story kind of thing. But the ultras were, I think the ultras, I still don't really know what the draw is. The biggest thing that I can say is what I like enjoy about them is just spending time outside, like on your own, doing your own thing. And like, but there is a defined end a goal. Like, so it's the perfect balance of like, okay, just go do your thing, but like, hey, finish it in a certain time and this amount of miles. I did my first 100 miler with Kenny and it was like the Habanero 100, middle of August, started at noon. Gosh. In the middle of August, South Texas, and it's a 6-mile loop, and it was like a sand pit. Like you're running, not like the beach, though the beach is here, like the packed sand. It was terrible. But that one, and then also the first Grit Ultra that I did, which was a 24-hour race over New Year's. Both of those were super heavily supported, and I had like a huge crew that was all taking care of us, and it was really fun. Like they made the experience like even more fun because it was like, you know, I'm doing the running, but all these people are here to like make sure it happens. But it wasn't until, so I did that 100 miler and then I did like another 50K, I think. And then I did the 100 miler over New Year's. It wasn't until I started doing mountain hundreds that I was like, this is my thing. All I want to do is run 100 milers. And they were terrible. Like they killed me. The first 100 miler I did out in, it was like February of last year out in West Texas in the Franklin Mountains. It started out, there were 4 of us that were planning to do the full 100. And it was 50K 3 times. It was like a 30-mile loop or 34-mile loop 3 times. And I had already done 100. Kenny had already done 100. And then the 2 others, Roy and Christina, had never done one. But they had started training. I think it was kind of since Habanero, they were like, okay, a lot of people said, if Kenny can do this, we can do this. Like, since Kenny did the 100, they were like, which I think is kind of cool. Like, nobody cares what I do, but like when other people do those things, it's like, okay, if they can do it, we can. But we started out and we did most of the first loop all together, but Roy dropped off pretty quickly and Kenny was like sticking with him. So me and Christina finished that first loop, and then Christina was like, look, I'm slowing down. Like, you just go. So they all dropped out by like mile 50, I think, is where they all dropped out. But I was already like 20 miles ahead of them at that point. And so that was my first race. Like, once they dropped out, like they were the ones everybody was worried about. We had Roy's wife, Rachel, was out there crewing for us. And so she was the one, like everybody was worried about them. So they all dropped out around like midnight, 1 o'clock. And I was on my own starting that third loop. So at like 65, 70 miles, here I was like on my own. And I was like, this sucks. It was the elevate. I'd never run a mountain race before. The elevation was like I'm like coming here from Houston, like not elevation. I went into it slightly sick. And so it was right at like 60, 70 miles that like the congestion got like really bad. It got cold, the temperature dropped, and the wind picked up. And I spent like the last 30 miles of that race through the night. I like cried all the way through the night going up like this 2 miles of straight up. I was like walking a little while and sitting down and crying. Like it was just absolutely terrible. But then I got all the way up to the peak that you hit for like the 3rd time right as the sun was coming up. And I was like, okay, like maybe I'll survive this. Anyways, I got to where like I could barely run just because of my breathing, which was really frustrating. And the whole like last 30 miles of that race was just like, this sucks. Like, why am I doing this? This is stupid. But it's literally, Kenny ran with me like the last 1 or 2 miles coming in. And I was still like, I could still run. I could barely breathe, but I could still run. And so I came down, it was a little hill down into the finish, and I still came running in and like barely breathe. But when I finished that, okay, I hated it. I found for about 6 hours, I hate my life. But after that, I'm like, okay, like what's next? Like, and it was, I don't know what it is about the mountain. It's so challenging, like so challenging. But then like the variety, the views, like just being outside in the middle of nowhere, like I love it. And so that's kind of like my, that's what I came home from Franklin's, and I was like, I want to do one of these every weekend. Like I can run
every weekend. What the heck?
And I, you know, take a day to like sleep and recover, and then like I feel fine. Let's go. Like I'm ready to go again.
What was going through your mind when you were crying, and how did you keep pushing yourself to keep going and not just drop out there?
Yeah, I had when they hit 50 miles, they were kind of on the back half of the course, and soon after that, I came into, because you come through the start finish line. And I came back, you know, the second time. And when I came in from that, I was like, this isn't even my race. Like we came to like help Roy and Christina doing it. They had both dropped out. And I was like, why am I even still running? But I remember like having that thought. But at the same time, I was like, I can do this. Like, why would I not? And I think that's kind of the thing is like, I can do this. Like, this sucks. Like, this is miserable, but I can do this. And so I will. Like, I didn't come here to just run 70 miles. Like I came here to run 100. So I'm going to go run 100. And it was kind of like, I felt like I, you know, was supposed to be Roy and Christina's race. And then I was the only one that ended up finishing. And honestly, like I was more proud of Roy and Christina for putting themselves out there and for doing as much as they could. And like, you just kind of expect like, well, if Kris is going to finish, like I just have to finish. So it's kind of like, I guess, and I think that kind of maybe took the pressure off of it for me some of like, this isn't even my race, but I'm just going to go finish it because I can. Yeah. And it was beautiful out there. Like the second time when I hit that peak there, the sun was going down. There's a beautiful sunset and the full moon was coming up. And it was one of those just like, I'm so glad I'm alive moments. Like
that's awesome.
And that's what like, I live for those. Like that's the coolest. When the sun comes up after like misery all night, you're like, it's good to be alive. Like, thank God it's daytime again.
What was your nutrition like on that?
So I now have it dialed in because I've done enough on my own. I guess the other one, the first one that I did on my own, I've done the Barkley Fall Classic a couple times. And that is now my favorite. The Barkley Fall Classic. So the Barkley Marathons is in the spring, and it's like 100 miler, really like 120 miles or something. The Barkley Fall Classic is a 50K at the same race or at the same park, but it's a 50K. They allow like 500 people in. It's marked, not super well, but it is marked. There's aid stations. Like it's more of a race, and the top male and female get a golden ticket to the Barkley Marathons. So I just kind of heard about it and was like, this seems cool. And like, I'd watched a Barkley Marathons documentary and like, I still don't think it's really for me, but now I'm kind of going for that golden ticket. Like I finished second last year and I'm like, I still haven't gotten in yet, but that one was the first one that I went out there and like local Texas races, like you're just running against anybody that's here. They're not really like, I mean, I want to do all the big name, like the mountain races. And I know like to do those, like, I mean, I will finish like not back of the pack, but maybe middle of the pack if I'm lucky, you know. So Texas races are kind of a good confidence booster because it's not a whole, I mean, Texas is kind of cool, but people don't come here as a destination to race for the most part. But that Barkley Fall Classic, like that's kind of one of those destination races. So it's really cool to go out there the first time and like, all these people knew exactly what they were doing. And like, I just kind of had to like fake it till I made it. So my fuel, Kenny has helped me nail this down because I knew nothing and I still know nothing. But I do, I time my water. I drink it like depending on the weather, like if it's colder, I'll drink it like less, you know, obviously. I do water. I do a lot of Noon. I have like, I've been given a lot of Noon. I haven't ever bought it, but I have a lot of Noon packets. I take those in the Noon hydration, electrolytes. So I time my water, I time my electrolytes, and then Kenny has a bunch of pills he gives me, and I don't really know what they all are.
Oh my God, that sounds so bad.
I have little pill packets. It's
salt pills or something?
It's aminos. Aminos is one of the biggest things. Salt, he times the caffeine. I do a caffeine pill like 1 to 2 to 3 times. But I know it's aminos and salt. are two of the main things.
And ecstasy.
So here my races go. I sit down with Kenny before I leave, and we map out, like, I take them like every 2 hours typically. And these pills, like, I mean, they obviously like help me, but I think they're also a huge placebo thing. Like, okay, I got this. Like, Anyway, so the water, the noon, the pills, like that's another thing. Like I take every 2 hours. Well, depending on the race, sometimes it's every hour, every 2 hours. And then I do baby food. The little baby food packets like will work great for me. So I have one of those every hour. And then, it's just like food, energy, and like easily digestible. I can put I have like a really like off-brand little pack, but like I can put a couple of them in there, a couple of them in I have it all figured out. So the baby food, and then aid stations, which not all races have a ton of aid stations, but I'll eat anything at aid stations. Typically like sandwiches, ramen during the night, oranges. I'm kind of picky. Like I don't just eat anything, but I like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Mm-hmm. Everyone, who doesn't, right?
I like those.
But honestly, I do mainly or the biggest thing I worry about is like water and then the electrolytes. And then I eat whenever I'm hungry. And especially the more I do them, like I just know I have to keep eating something, anything.
Yeah. So. What's the biggest race that you're looking forward to this year?
I don't know which races I'm doing this year, but the one I'm doing.
What do you?
March? Come on now.
No, like after everything canceled last year, I barely got a couple in at the end, and those were kind of last minute. Like I did one out in Idaho, but I had signed up for one in Oregon, and I'd put my name in the hat for one in Idaho the same weekend, and I'd like bought my plane tickets, but the one in Oregon. The one in Idaho sent me an invite to join because there was a wait list for it. And I was kind of like, I'm already in the Oregon one. But I let it sit there for about 2 days, and then the Oregon one canceled. And so I got into the Idaho one. Wow. And then it was also August or something when they finally, for the Barkley Fall Classic last year, they only had past finishers come. So it was August, the race is in September, and I still wasn't in. But then when they made that decision, since I was on the wait list, I got in. So I got into those 2 races, and I did that was like one of the greatest 2 weeks of my life because I flew out to Washington. I hiked around Mount Rainier with my brother that lives up there in Oregon. I did that 100-miler in Idaho. I spent like 3 days camping and hiking at Glacier all day. And then I flew to Tennessee and had like my best race performance ever at that Barkley Fall Classic. Anyway, so since 2020, where everything canceled and it was like all up in the air, even like I was going to do a 100-miler the first weekend of December and then it canceled, but I got into a different one in Missouri. So I'm very much like skeptical that anything's really going to happen, but like still kind of like, making my plans.
It's
might
understandable.
happen, it might not. Yeah.
We have so many races
now,
too.
That's my excuse for this year, but that's also been about every other year. So that's not to say I normally have my years really planned out. But I got into Wasatch 100, which is in Utah in the Wasatch, and so I'm excited about that one.
That'll be good.
My biggest goal someday, I'm going to run 100 milers. Hopefully within
like
20 years. No. Within
yeah, for sure.
Not actually possible.
Not with that attitude.
So I'm wanting to bank the 100 milers. I'm wanting to bank the 100 milers. And then I heard about this thing, they call it the Grand Slam of ultra running. And it has to be 4 out of the 5, but I want to do all 5. But of the biggest, they're considered like the oldest, original OG. They're not even necessarily the hardest 100 milers. But there are these 5. It's Vermont 100, Old Dominion, which is in Virginia, and then Wasatch, Western States, and Leadville, I think, are the 5 races. And you do them all within a summer, and they call it the Grand Slam of Ultra Running.
Wow.
So that's my goal. But all of those are lottery races.
Yeah.
It's really hard. So it's half of it is just kind of a luck thing. But I think I'm going to try to put into all those races every year until I get into all of them. It's kind of my plan.
Can you get a lottery ticket to get into that Grand Slam, or do you have to get a lottery ticket for all of them?
The Grand Slam is pretty easy. Once you get into a couple of them, Wasatch is the easiest one to get into, and that's the final one, and that's where you get your Grand Slam thing and all that. And they say if you get into 1 or 2 or 3, some of the others will be if you're going for the Grand Slam, they'll give you a better chance at getting in, kind of thing. Wasatch for sure is that way. If you've done all the 4 others, they'll hey, get into our race, finish it out. So the to finish it out is the easy part. It's getting into a couple of those key ones that's more difficult. yeah, I wish there was some kind of like, hey, can I like sign up for this and like do them all? But it's really, I mean, it's all lottery based. So it's like, there's no way to.
Yeah.
And it's like not enough that it's just hard in itself, but you have to also, it's not even something you can have a skill to get in. It's like it's just luck.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can't just go buy it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So-
Well, you have to be lucky and then you can buy it. It's both of those.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, what's next for Kris? What big plans do you have for this year, next year?
Hundreds.
Hundreds?
Just
all
100
hundos, huh?
Well, so I'm also good at like the shorter distance stuff, and I really like obstacle course racing. But I would say like the thing that I'm working toward, the thing that I see is like the biggest challenge and like the biggest achievement would be 100 milers. Like that's what I want to do. So, I mean, next weekend, the weekend after, I'm doing like a bunch of obstacle course races that I expect to do fairly well in. I would like to do well in, and I think I have a good chance at doing well in. But like, to me, those are kind of like side things. Like I just kind of do those for fun. For me, the hundreds are like, that's what I want to do. Like, I don't know.
She's lighting up like
crazy.
talking about horses,
I
man.
know.
You got to integrate the two, and it'd be your perfect thing.
Yeah.
Well, how can people follow you on social media? What are all your platforms?
I'm pretty much on Instagram, Kris Rugloski, at Kris Rugloski. Yeah, Facebook is kind of, I had a Facebook page, but there's a lot more weird people on Facebook than on Instagram.
Really? I would think it's a lot more weird
there's
on
a lot
Insta.
of weird people on Instagram too. I've gotten,
You
plenty
don't
of
do
weird.
Twitter yet? No Twitter?
I have a Twitter account. I had to have one for the Titan Games, but no, I do not do Twitter.
No.
I open that about twice a year, if that. So, I don't know. Social media is enough of a hassle in itself.
Yeah.
So,
IG is a lot in itself.
yeah,
Oh, well, Kris, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. It was
Yeah.
very, very fun.
it was a lot of fun.
Apologies about the technical difficulties. Mike's got to get this camera in order.
This is John's cable.
Look, I handled the audio. This is like
It
the
says
audio.
John's name written all
It's-
over it.
The audio is me, camera is Mike. So whatever the tools are, just get it fixed,
This is Mike's house.
please.
Well, and we probably have way more to talk about, but you have a lot of stuff going on that we can't cover in one episode. So maybe we'll have you on again if you
Alright.
want
We
to.
need to.
Maybe if I make all my hundreds in
There you
summer.
go.
Yeah, we need to talk about once you get done with them.
Yeah, once I actually do something with my life. then
Yeah,
we'll
because I
go
don't think
back.
you've done 100. So when you get one down your, in your belt, we'll go ahead and talk to you then.
No, it's the 5 in a summer. That counts for something.
Okay, no, I'm looking forward to
That's
that
a
one.
deal. All right. Well, thank you, Kris.
All right, yeah. Thank you.
Bye.